Welcome to 222 Paranormal Podcast with your host, Jen and Joe. What's up, Jen?
Welcome, everybody, to the show. Oh my gosh, you guys, we have a very special treat today. We have some very special guests who did some very haunted things this week, and I cannot wait to hear about it. And I have a million questions, and we're going to get right into it. But
We have Courtney Buckley and G.G. that just did an episode of Scared and Alone. Courtney's show, Scared and Alone. You go up to scaredandalone.com, just click on it, you can see all the episodes. But we are going to talk about two very special episodes. One is at the Villisca Axe Murder House, and the other one is at the Allegan County Historical Society Old Jail Museum. So welcome, Courtney and G.G.
Hi.
Hi, girls.
So excited to be here again.
I just have to tell you, girls, that you terrified me beyond belief from your Valisca live stream.
Yeah,
I had to watch it on replay because I couldn't watch it live. And I'm telling you, I was sitting at work and I was shaking because it was so scary when the hand disappeared.
that was the part.
That's what got you?
No, all of it.
What happened?
Oh, okay. We have to go back. We have to start from the beginning. I saw you girls. Okay. First of all, Courtney is driving across the country by herself. Did you drive by yourself from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I did. I was in the car for a very long time, and I left Massachusetts. I drove through New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and then I got to G.G. in Michigan. We gathered up our stuff and ourselves and our friend, and then we got back in the car and drove through Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, then South Dakota, Iowa, and then all the way back to Michigan, and then I drove back again. And when I drove back, I went through all the same states and also New Jersey and Connecticut. So 13 states in a week.
That's insanity. First of all, I applaud you because I would have to go over bridges and I'd die.
There was some
from the sheer terror.
I had to go drive through Times Square at midnight.
What? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Screaming at my lungs. It was terrible.
Awful. Mm-hmm. Thanks for stopping by when you went through Ohio.
I tried to go through Ohio as fast as humanly possible. And apparently
I heard when fast.
I lost a whole hour of time on my way through somehow because of the vortex, and it sucked my soul away. No offense. No offense.
Yes, offense.
Hey, you ever need pit stop, you can stop in Toledo and come and see us.
Listen, I was in Toledo for probably, 46 hours, it seemed like, and I was yelling your names out the window the whole time.
Oh, that's not what that noise was. No, I was just amazed at like how many miles you guys put on trucking out to Iowa. Is that the first time you had been there?
Now, yeah, that was the first time I had been to the majority of those states.
And what was your first impression when you guys pulled up and you saw the place?
Valisca?
Yeah.
We looked at each other, cried a little bit. We're like, we finally made it. And then 2 hours later, we're like, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There was that it felt like a first
hours.
Date, driving up to like a first date and like that like flutter in your heart and like in your stomach. And oh my God, we were finally here. And like staring at it, it was like complete disbelief. And then for me at least, and then like G.G. said, not that long after, it was like, get me out of here.
Because we were like stoked, even driving. We knew we were going there, but we listened to the first episode she was on 4 years ago on PXL, and we had talked about it. And I was like, we can go. And the thing, like, we got all emotional. We're still like 2 hours away from it. We're like, this is so great. We're going here together. And then we were crying, leaving for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was hard to have gone through all that. And I remember sitting, I don't remember some of the things that happened, but I do remember sitting in the car afterwards and just like staring at each other and being like, how do we do this? Like, is it we wanted to go here for so long and we have this house for the whole night, and how do we just walk away from it? But at the end of the day, what we went through, it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe to be there for us. So we had to make the hard choice and go and skedaddle right out of there.
Yeah, I mean, just watching that one portion of the video where it was like, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. It was like you were possessed.
Yeah.
Like something took over you. And I was sitting at my desk like, oh my God, oh my God. And my coworkers are probably like, this crazy nut, what's she doing? I'm like, Courtney, get on with it.
And it's honestly like same with me. I don't like to throw that word around. I'm not the person that jumps on that, but having given it time, and even before I left Michigan, having given it a little bit of time, it was like, it's not possessed in the Catholic Church like we need a priest sense of the word, but it was in the sense of, I have absolute boundaries when I go into these places that I believe in wholeheartedly. I have my own things that I do. There was no way, like no one was allowed to do that to me. And this thing, whatever it was, looked at those boundaries in the eye and said, well, I don't care about that, and took me anyway. So the only way to describe it is my body, it took possession of my body. And that was terrifying. And having to watch, like I had to, when we escaped to the hotel, I didn't have memory of most of that, especially that first part when we were by the parents' bed. And I had to sit there and watch it, and I watched it like probably 9 times before I went to sleep, because in my, like, I couldn't process in my brain that this was me, and I didn't have any memory of it. And like watching my face change, like looking at it, was the most unnerving thing, because who was that? Like everything about me in that moment changed. My jaw went slack, my facial features changed, my eyes went dark, like
her posture, and some of the stuff we didn't even get on camera. Like it wasn't, because I left my camera stuff downstairs when I went up with her. And so the version of course that I saw is a version I don't ever want to see again. It was very scary, and it was not her. You know, we've talked about, like, we had 10, 11 hours on the drive home to try to think of another term other than possessed. There isn't one in the English language as far as whatever the heck that was. It was I just don't ever want to see that again. we took our relationship to a whole different level, is what that was.
Yeah, for sure. It's like when you know your mind's trying to reconcile like what happened, like, you know, like you just keep playing it over and over. And I do too, because I had to go back and watch it a couple times. I'm like, that's must. Oh
yeah, the second half it went haywire. And Courtney and I, you know, we got to spend a few days together past that, and even then, in rewatching it, our recollection like still wasn't coming back as to what actually was like on film versus like what happened, and then trying to mix it together, what you guys weren't able to see. And there's just so much. It's going to take probably a long time, I know, for me to be able to come out with a lot of it, just because of the way that it did make me feel, whether it's my personal feelings or how the scaredness that I got just from the house itself. Like it's a whole process. I've never experienced anything like that face to face. Yeah, you see it on TV, but when you're next to somebody and somebody you love and trust, and that happens to, and you can't do anything to help them, and you feel helpless and stuck, literally stuck.
That's the other thing. Like if you watch, and it doesn't necessarily really translate on camera, but if you know it and you go back and watch it, when we're coming up the stairs, G.G hears someone say "move" in her ear, as if something was trying to get, because I was ahead of her on the stairs. So it was like someone was trying to get through her to get to me. And then I do this weird dance, like it was already kind of taking over. Like I do this weird dance at the top of the stairs where like I spin around, but like I'm spinning her around while I'm doing it, almost, because I'm trying to film the room. So she's trying to get out of the shot. And in doing that, I trapped her next to the wall behind the bed. So when I came into her, she literally had no space. Like I'm inches of space next to the wall, which was like a slanted roof. So she's huddled in there, and I'm like right up against her. She had nowhere to go. And I can't, the part that I have such trouble like coming to terms with, and we joke about it, but is the fact that like if we were not live on Scared and Alone and there were not other people there present to do something, if we had just been there alone ourselves, I would have hurt her. And I have no doubt in my mind that that night would have ended very, very differently. And
It's really interesting you say that, because we have another group here from Toledo who was out there and had a similar situation happen, and but a lot more scary. I don't know if they want me to tell a story.
Did they get possessed too, or?
Yeah, but yeah, it could have went real south real quick, and you know, you were lucky that you had those people, you know, online directing you and telling you and watching out for you, because that was frightening.
Well, that's like the only thing that I remembered from that moment. The only thing that got through to me was Richard Lale's voice saying, get outside, like go outside. And even watching me, like, this is almost more chilling to me than the rest of it, was watching me hold the camera while I'm walking down the stairs and outside. Like, there's nobody home when I'm doing that. I'm like a robot walking down the stairs. And then I don't know what I said to G.G, but I hand the camera to G.G. I said something. And her voice in that moment, like, looking back on it, is so comforting. Like, she said something about like, oh, I know you did, or I know you are, or like whatever that is. And like, she was so calm, and I don't know how, but I went outside and I'm breathing air and I'm like kind of coming back into myself. But after watching the rest of the episode, like, I definitely was not for the rest of the time. But I was out there, and all of a sudden I was like, I got to go in the attic. But at the same time as I said that out loud, in my head, I was like, but I can't go look and see what I did to those kids up there. And so I was trying to convince everybody that I was back myself. And I wasn't, because I was still talking in the first person. When I come back in the house, I set the camera up, and I'm still in the stance like that I was in. You know, I'm talking more like myself, but like I'm able to answer questions, but I'm still very much not.
There's no expression on her face, and she talks a lot with her facial expression. So like me knowing her the way that I do, and us knowing each other and how we both reacted through all that, it was just when you turned around, you're like, I need to go to the attic. I'm like, oh, hey guys, she says she needs to go to the attic. I'm like, do I take her down at the knees? Are we doing this? Like, what are we, are we safe? You guys got my back when we're up there? Like, what's going on? Because the attic is another very, very scary place. And I don't know why you wanted to go up there during that time, but that was a whirlwind of just fear and anxiousness all into one. Like, so drained after 2 hours. I can't even imagine having to be there anymore longer than what we were.
And there were so many like little things too that happened throughout the episode.
I was going to say, I noticed that you said, when you were talking about going back into the attic, you didn't say I, you said what I did to those kids.
Yeah.
And so you were actually almost talking as that person.
Yeah, I did that for a while, and I didn't realize I was doing it, but I did it for a while. At least when I was saying that in the moment, I was saying like, this is the thing that came into my head. Like, I was able to distinguish that like that thought had come into me, but I was still talking in the first person. And the weird thing is, watching myself interact with everybody on the panel from there on, I was confrontational. Every time David said anything, I was glaring at him. Like every time I was interrupting people. I'm not like that, even on the show. Like I'm not like, that's not me at all. But then when we got up to the attic, I did this weird thing. And watching back, I'm like, I don't understand why I phrased this way. But there was a doll in the attic that was awful. And we can get into that. But me person did not want to go anywhere near that doll. But in the attic, I was like, yeah, we have this doll here and we're not going to talk about it. Like, I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist, because the important thing to talk about right now while we're up here is this person that hid in the attic and what they did. And it was almost like I was saying, like, watching it back, it's almost like I was saying, like, we're here to talk about me. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about me.
Well, you even said at one point, you even said, I stood right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said that at a point, and I'm like, what do you mean? We're sitting in chairs. What?
Yeah. And like I don't these little things I don't have any recollection of.
I don't know. Did they ever find
I've
out
got to
who
watch the
was
show
the
again.
killer?
There's a lot.
No.
No, they didn't.
Scary.
And there was one point where
That's
like
the big mystery is they to this.
You're breaking up, Joe.
Oh, go ahead.
We didn't hear.
Go
what
ahead,
you
Courtney.
said.
Say what you were going to say.
there was one point
Oh,
when
I
we were
don't
standing-
remember now.
There was one point when we were standing by the bed and you can see, or I can see the minute that it had fully taken over me, because when I'm seeing something and I'm trying to describe what I'm seeing in my mind's eye, like I look up and to the left like this, and I never, like I film on this, like this is my iPhone, I film on this. I never look into the camera, I always look at the screen. Whoops, sorry.
Okay.
But there's a point where Richard Lale I'm describing what I'm saying but I'm describing what I'm wearing. And then I'm like looking up to the left or looking off somewhere, and Richard Lale's talking about his headache, and then they cut to my face. And when they cut to my face, I look dead in the camera and I'm gone. Like it's like an instantaneous thing. And then David starts asking me about names. Can I ask you your name? And I said no. And then he started saying names, and at one point he said Henry, and I did this weird laugh, and everyone was like, oh my God, she's laughing because that's who it is. But looking back on it, I don't think that that's what it was at all. It felt like it was a laugh, like good luck to you trying to get this information out of me because you're never going to get it. Like, so I don't even think that we got any information.
Did any of the children come forward while you guys were there?
Well, so kind of, but I don't believe it. Like, I feel like this whole thing, I was like manipulated the whole time. I was what's the word? I was gaslit like the entire time I was in there.
Yeah.
So in the very beginning, there was a child supposedly coming through, and I sat down on the floor and we were trying to engage it. And I have really good luck with kids, I think, because I'm a mother. I get them to interact a lot. I got them to interact the next night. Like they play with those light up ball things that I have. But I sat down on the floor and I was trying to get it to interact. And what I could see in my mind's eye, it was like a little girl was sitting next to me, but we had to sit like next to each other, facing like the same direction. And I wasn't allowed to look at her face, which I've never experienced in my life. I was not allowed to look at her. And she just was sitting next to me. And so and then they started talking about, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. They started talking about like the eyes being like where you can tell something's lying. And it felt like, and then they were talking about like these evil entities or whatever it is, these really negative entities that use children to disguise themselves as. And I kept over and over again in various parts of the house, I kept saying like, this thing that I'm dealing with now is not the same thing I was dealing with before. And I was like adamant about it, but I think I was dealing with the same thing in various forms throughout the whole time, or we were too. Like, but before even before G.G. came in the house, and just G.G. coming in the house, like I question, because I'm always game for anything at these locations. Like I may put up a little bit of a fight, but I will eventually suck it up and do it. And I was so adamant that I could not go upstairs by myself. And then of all the things to do, it's scared and alone, to say that I needed G.G. in the house with me. Like, was it because I was actually that afraid, which I was, but was it because I was that afraid, or because I needed a body in the house? And I don't know what to believe.
It was almost like my feeling was something was trying to get her in there and using you to get her in there.
Yeah.
At any point, G.G., did you feel like something was trying to like, jump into your body?
Well, here's the thing with me and my magic.
Matt.
So I have a way of turning it off. It's taken a lot, and you guys know with investigating, you have to learn if you're any type of empath or sensitive at all. You have to learn to shut that off. I was there for Courtney. I was there to protect her. She called me in because she was scared. That mother role comes in, you put that shield on, and that was that. Like, nothing's getting to me. You're not going to get into me spiritually. Maybe that's why. I don't know. They're like, okay, well, we got to take her out because whatever reason. I try to crack jokes through most of it, even though I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life, actually, especially of the unknown and not being able to see it. I see my best friend, but do I really see my best friend? Like, I didn't see it in her eyes, and that's how I know she's my best friend, and
Right.
if I felt that I was going to be in any harm, I wouldn't have went up there, but I didn't know until we hit the top of the stairs, and she turned around. She had just black eyes when she looks at me and says, what did you say? They're as dead as the meter. The meter is as dead as they are. And then she turned her head, and her eyes are as black as my shirt, as black as anything that you see. And she's staring right at me. You guys can't see that on camera. You can see her turn her head. And I'm just like, oh, and I was down like this. And then that's probably the only time that I really felt threatened, because it was like I was shrinking, and it was like coming like this. I'm dead against a wall, the nightstand or dresser, and the bed, and then her. Like, there's no... Well, this room was probably only like a 10 by 15, 18. The rooms are not big in there at all. So, like, I had nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere. And that's when Richard Lale was like, you need to get outside. You need to get outside. You need to get outside. He finally got to her, or inside there. She was like, okay. You could tell she was still fighting it, because a little bit of her voice, her life and her voice came back, but her posture was still like up like a working man in his boots. And that's how she carried herself, even going downstairs. She carried herself like a lumberjack almost. Like, that's, when she talks about that with the name thing and everything, when she looked up in the camera, her whole posture, everything, just, it's so hard to explain, but obviously I can see it, but like to put it into words, and the amount of fear. And then I had getting rationality into it, to be like, okay, look, G.G, you are here. It is okay. That's Courtney. We're going to do this. But then the spiritual side of me is like, maybe run or get some holy water, something. But everything happened in the right time. Thank God Richard Lale was able to get in her spiritual self, because everybody was saying stuff to her. The only thing that she remembers is what Richard Lale was saying to her. And she even said it when we got outside. Thank you, Richard Lale. Like, when she was a little bit detached from the house, it wasn't all the way gone, but she was a little bit detached, and she was coming back too. She was looking up at the stars, and that's something that I knew she wanted to do. I think that helped ground her when she was out there, to try to come back as much as she could. But then she turned around. Well, I want to go in the attic. What? Well, there we go in the attic with the big scary doll.
But that's really the scariest thing, like what Gigi's talking about being able to shut that off and like not let anything in. I do that. Like, yes, I'm a little open to like the experiences when I'm in there, but like there's an absolute line. There's an absolute boundary. Nothing's coming home with me, and nothing, like, there's like a bubble that you can talk to me through, but you can't come in. And I've never, ever doubted that for 1 second. And this thing was just like forget it, like go right through it. And I don't know how that happened. And I literally, like, since then, like, we slept out of necessity, but like, since I've been home, like, I haven't been able to sleep by myself. I've had nightmares. Like, just because of the trauma, like, it was an actual real trauma that we went through. And I don't know, like, so many things could have gone wrong, and I'm glad that they didn't, but it was like, it's hard to talk about because it sounds insane, but like, it really happened. And like, it wasn't done. We didn't do that for TV. Like, that wasn't acting. It wasn't like, we thought this would be fun. Like, I literally could have hurt one of my best friends. Like, I literally, when I look at the camera, and that, like, that moment when you can tell that it's totally not me anymore, the first thing I do, I look dead in the camera, and then I look dead at her. Like, that was my target the whole time. And then they had asked me about the meter. I said it was dead, and I said it in a weird voice. And then we have this whole conversation about names, and then I say the thing that she was talking about before. I said, the meter's dead, just like I turn and I look at her and I go, the meter's dead, just like they are. Like, I was like eyes on like David, I think, like while he was asking me these questions, I was like in the zone of like manipulating all these people that I was looking at almost. And then I turned to her, and it was 1,000% a threat. The meter is dead, just like they are. And that was, then Richard Lale started, and I came out of it a little bit, but it was like, how something can violate boundaries like that intensely, and that, like, I don't know. I think
Next-
that was something that was there before the murders happened. I think that was something that has been there for a while, and it's going to continue to do the same thing.
Absolutely, because it wasn't like I had my computer set up outside because I couldn't get my phone to work. Like I was not prepared to go in that house. That wasn't something that was even ever discussed. I was being outside by the barn. I was right in front of the barn. So when she asked me to come in, I was like fiddling around and couldn't get my crap together. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like that alone, I think I was trying to get over the fact that I was being pulled in. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the plan was for her to be outside the whole time. And I was going to be in there by myself for the episode. And then when the episode was done, we were going to go investigate together. Like that was always the plan. Me asking for her to come in was done on the spot. And I, like, you can almost hear the pleading in my voice. Like I was so afraid. But like, was it that, or was it that I was manipulating everybody? I was manipulating everybody to believe that I was so afraid I needed another person. Now I was that afraid, but that I was manipulating everybody to believe that I was so afraid I need another person in order to get a body in the house. Like, I think I was already affected, and we were affected before we even got there because we travel very, very well together. And that whole day we were like sniping at each other and like saying really like, just like being really like short and nasty to each other for no reason, to the point where we would both be like, oh my God, like, I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry. Like,
yes, exactly. After we said it, we're like, ew, gross. Why
like,
would
where
I say
did that come from? And then after we left, it never happened again. So I think this thing had a hold on us before we even got there.
Well, all the excitement and our intentions that we put, even just going there, like we threw our intentions right at that location. Like, we know better than that. But all the talk, all the planning, all the excitement, because we went there with such excitement.
You know, it's interesting, you know, with as much experience as you guys have, and, you know, it almost makes me really concerned for anybody who wants to go there who does not have the knowledge that you guys have to be able to protect yourself, because this thing got to you guys and you guys know, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's scary. That's really intense.
I don't think that those murders are the last we're going to hear about at this house, honestly.
No,
you feel that
sure
is going to come in there and do something?
Can you say that again?
You feel that someone else is going to go, or something else is going to, whether someone's going to else is going to be murdered in there?
Yeah, I think, and I don't think, like, not that it's not going to be their fault, but like, I think that this, whatever this thing is,
murdered
if it could
or
take
hurt,
right, if it could take me over like that,
yeah.
and
yeah.
It could take over anybody like that, and I think that's what it thrives on. Like, we, you know, you heard about the story, I'm sure, from, what was it, like 2014, where an investigator went in and stabbed themselves in the chest. Like, I used to think that's so weird. Like, how could that possibly happen? Now I know, because if it wasn't, you know, it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be her. If people kept saying like, oh, are you going to bring an axe as a trigger object? Thank God we knew better than to do that, because
no,
it would have been buried in her, unfortunately. Like, it's so
asked
scary.
That a lot.
And it's so scary to say that out loud, but like, genuinely, no jokes, like, it would have been in her. Like, no
and that's
question.
If I was to be watching this or hear us talk, I'd be like, whoa, and I'd call BS. I don't blame anybody for thinking that way. I never thought in a million years that we'd go through or have the experience that we did there.
Yeah.
We honestly went thinking that we weren't going to get anything. We were just going to go for the history part of it. And we were finally going to get to check that off our bucket list. And that was our goal since the beginning of our friendship, was to check that off our bucket list. Well, we got to check off a couple other things that weren't even on that bucket list. It's like our intentions going there, we weren't expecting anything. Nothing like this. Maybe a couple footsteps or something. Not any of this. We got the footsteps, but 100 more things to go with those.
The amount of physical evidence that came out of that episode was ridiculous too. Like, the dirt piles we kept finding all over the place.
Yeah.
We assumed the doll, but they just kept showing up, and they were showing up in places that we had just walked. So there's no way that we didn't see them or feel them. And then things like like
the coins.
Yeah, well, actually I can debunk the coin. The coin was there.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't notice it, but I looked back at a picture that I had taken of that dirt pile and the coin was there. But things like my bag of food being knocked on the floor, I heard that during the episode and I just didn't know where in the house it came from. But the walls in that house are so thin, so it now I understand, like, that's why I couldn't pinpoint where it was. But then also, like, we came back in at one point and we heard a two-way radio go off. Like, we had two-way radios that I could use to call for help, but for whatever reason, before we went upstairs, I was freaking out about, I didn't want to carry too much stuff, so I emptied out all my pockets. So I put the radio on the kitchen on the table in the kitchen, and we walked in, we heard that radio go off, like the beep and then like sound, and when we were looking up afterwards, we started looking up the story of the investigator that stabbed themselves. And one version of it that we saw, he radioed his team in the barn to tell them that he just stabbed himself in the chest. Like, then when we were at the end in the downstairs bedroom trying to close out the show, they had us lift up the cloth over the mirror and we heard a music box go off, and then we looked and there's no music box on that table, but it was like we hit it and it made it sound like, but there was no music box or anything like that on the table. So just the amount of actual physical evidence, like, I expected that this place, as much as I didn't want it to be this, I expected that this place was way too commercialized. Too many shows have been there, too many people have been there. We're just disturbing them at this point, so they're not going to give us anything. Maybe we'll hear a creak, maybe we'll hear some. No, every time we walked in the house, something was moving, something was talking, something was doing something.
Well, even out at the beginning part, sorry, Court.
Go.
The static in my mic came out of nowhere, and we got EVPs off the static. I'm like, well, I didn't hear anything. They're all talking. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I'm looking like a fool. But they're all trying to figure it out. And then I was like, ooh.
And that was horrifying.
Next to me.
I was standing in the kitchen at that point, and it was so loud. And the sound that it was making, it sounded like there was a tornado just like swirling around me. And then there was voices in it. Like, how on earth? And that was right before we were supposed to go upstairs. Like, but in that, like, part of me like recognizes that I was in myself at that point, because the thoughts that were going through my head were, I'm terrified I can't go upstairs by myself. They were telling me not to go upstairs, which was new for the panel. But how could we come here? I wanted to come there. How could we come there and not go upstairs? Like, I couldn't let that happen. So I had to find a way to do it. And like, that's me rationalizing in my brain what I was thinking. But the only way I could do it is if I brought her in the house. But then I don't believe that. I don't believe that anymore because of the amount of gaslighting that I went through.
Yeah. Now, have you had discussions with the panel since then about this?
I went and saw all of them.
Okay, good.
So we got to meet in person for the first time.
Cool.
I ended up at Richard Lale's place at like 1 or 2 in the morning, just because I couldn't not see him, because he was so wrecked by it. Like, in that moment, watching him watch me was probably one of the hardest things I've seen. So I had to go give him a hug and show him that I was myself. And but yeah, we went to lunch with Dean and Todd, and then I went and saw David, who was visiting one of the states that I was driving through, and then I saw Richard Lale. So everyone, I brought the ham, because we found the ham twice. Which also, like, let's talk about that. I was so irate about the effing ham. Yeah. I was irate.
Tell other listeners the story.
Okay, so so the killer, supposedly, when they came into the crime scene, the killer had made a meal at the table and hadn't finished it. And then there was also the side of bacon that they found somewhere in the house. So I had it in my head that the way that I was going to close the show was I was going to go buy some food, and I was going to end the show sitting at the table eating a meal. And we went to 2 different places. And at the first place, I bought chocolate for the kids, and I bought ham because I can't eat raw bacon. So I thought ham was the next best thing. So I bought this little prepackaged thing of ham. And then we went to another place, and I bought a sandwich and like mac and cheese or something, bacon mac and cheese. So, which actually had bacon on it. And I realized this after, but I went in the house to get ready for the show. I realized I forgot the food. So there was a whole trip out to the barn to get the food. And I distinctly remember And now again, I don't trust anything, but I distinctly remember taking one bag, putting it in the other bag, bringing both bags in the house and putting it on the table in the kitchen. Now we start the episode. I'm in the bedroom downstairs. I hear a sound. It sounds like something fell. I can't figure out what it is. I go in the kitchen. I lose my ever-loving mind because there's a bag. My bag with the food is on the floor, which it had gone from the table to the floor somehow. So I pick it up. I put it back on the table. We continue on. Now they were like, okay, you brought the food that you wanted or whatever. So why don't you sit down and have a meal? So I'm setting up the camera. I'm setting up everything. I sit down. I open the bag, and the ham's not there, which is the thing that I was going to eat. The ham is not in the bag. So now, again, this is proof to me that I wasn't still myself because I was so irate about the ham. Where's my ham? I was like, I couldn't get over it. Where's the ham? Why did you take my ham? Put the ham back. Like, where did you put the ham? Like, I couldn't get over the fact that the ham was missing. So everyone's telling me the ham's going to show up. It's going to be a sign that the killer's traveling with you, etc. I'm like, great, don't want to hear that. But like, where's my ham? Because I'm still mad about it. We end the episode, no idea where the ham is. We go outside to the barn and find the ham is in the barn. Now, could I have just misremembered somehow at this point? Probably, and it just ended up in the barn and I thought I brought it and I didn't. Fine. So I chalk that one up to like, I made a mistake. Except for the fact that now we're talking about the ham and I'm like, forget it. I don't want anything to do with it. Like, put it in the trash. We're going to so we put all the trash together. All the trash
cleaned
goes
out the car. Yeah.
Yep.
On our way
all
out.
the trash goes out to the dumpster. We get back in the car. We go stay at the hotel. Now we're driving again. The next morning, we're driving however many hours back to Michigan. And I go in a separate bag that
we're in Illinois by now. Yeah.
Right. Separate bag that had nothing to do with anything. I open the bag to take something out and the ham is there.
I almost drove off the road.
Yeah, I can't. You could write off the first one. You could write off the first one as I made up a memory. But like for the ham, we distinctly like had a full conversation about the ham is not coming with us. We're putting it in the trash.
Get it out.
We don't want anything to do with this ham. Put it in the trash. And then the ham is in the car. So our lovely producers tried to cheer me up because I was like so far gone at that point that they made us a t-shirt called the Axed Ham of Valisca with a picture of ham on it. And on the back it says, "Where's my ham?" So I ordered those, but like because I couldn't get over it. It was like I was so mad about the ham. Like for like 10 minutes, I was like, I wouldn't stop talking about the ham. Because like I think I just needed something to be mad about at that point.
And the ham came back to you.
Yeah. So I ditched it. I brought it to David. I brought it to Richard Lale, and then I threw it out in a rest stop in Connecticut.
The haunted ham.
Mm-hmm.
Tales of the haunted ham.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So you're going to be traveling to your next show, and you're going to stop at a rest stop, at a random rest stop somewhere, and look down. That ham will be there.
Shut your face.
I believe it at this point. I really do. Unfortunately.
So, maybe the coroner will have it.
Oh God, the coroner.
Yeah, what was that with that?
Well, we saw a coroner at a rest area in South Dakota. I mean, where else are you going to see a coroner in the middle of a cornfield?
And we have no chill at all. No level of chill. So
it was like 2-3-year-olds going to like Disney World.
Seriously, I'm sobbing. We go from having this like emotional moment. I'm sobbing in the grass of a rest area by myself because I'm like, oh my God, I'm in South Dakota. This is great. And then we're like having this moment. And then our Saint Lori was like, did you guys see what's over there? And we turn around, there's the coroner van. And we're like, oh my God. And now we're trying to like take selfies from across the parking lot. And then G.G. looks at me and she goes, we're on vacation, and then just takes off. So now I'm running. We're like 3-year-olds running across the parking lot to take selfies with the coroner van while the coroner is inside peeing, like, or supposedly. I guess.
God.
Yeah, it was a good time.
What if there was a body in the back?
Did you look?
Can I touch it?
That's what we wanted. But then we got all shy once we saw the coroner. Like, we literally waited like an extra 5 minutes for him to walk out.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, we're not that weird because our first stop was Jeffrey Dahmer's sites. Just throwing that out there. That's why we ended up in Milwaukee.
All of this was pre-Valisca also. So we were one people before Valisca, and then we were
our innocent
people.
days.
Yeah, we were different people after Valisca.
We've seen things. We've
Mm,
heard things. She's been things.
yeah. But we have a new
Crazy.
joke now. We're always like, yeah, I'll be like, G.G, yeah, you can say that to me because remember the time that I almost axe murdered you? Like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll always have that.
Yeah.
So after you left Iowa, you returned back to Michigan and you did another investigation. Was that the following night?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Or
well,
was
even
it-
before Valisca, we went to Minnesota and we did the Boyd House.
Yeah. That was not an episode, but
Oh.
yeah, that was rough too.
Yeah,
In a good
that's
way.
a very good location. We do hope to go back there to do something there as far as we kind of went to like check it out this time, and definitely worth the trip out there for the Boyd House.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was three locations, 3 states, 3 days. That's what we were doing.
Y'all are insane.
Yeah,
I
forgot I wasn't
Yeah,
20.
right?
I forgot that I'm almost 40 and I'm not 20 anymore. So
Oh, hush. I'm 107. Shut up.
I just turned 41 on Saturday. This was an amazing birthday.
Hey, you're
I won't say.
What?
Joe, do you have internet? Or
I
no?
said you're only as old as you are.
Oh, 3? Unless we're in the
Oh my
Villisca
God.
house.
So tell us a little bit about what happened at the 3
I think he's minutes behind.
at the location in Michigan.
I mean, it was rough. It was very interesting, but it was also pretty rough. Again, we got a lot of physical evidence, and G.G was welcomed back on the panel, and thankfully I survived that one enough that I didn't need to call for help and have someone come in. But we got, the little girl spirit that is there was playing again. Like I said before, I have success with those little light up ball things. We had that. She was playing with those. We all heard humming, which came from the room with me when I was singing to her. Then the terrible part was when I went into the jail section, and when I walked into, there was a military room, and something somewhere said military, and that's why they sent me over there. And
Something somewhere. That's why
that was the drunk tank, and something touched my hair in like a provocative way, like it tried to run its hands through my hair,
Where was
I
that?
felt violated everywhere.
She needed dinner first.
Right. And then
Right?
I was sitting in one of the jail cells, and Todd Bonner put on the spirit box, and it said my name clearly 2 times, and then it said men like that butt, and then tried to touch my butt, and I was not okay with any of that. But then the scariest, the most unnerving part was this. I don't know if you guys can see that behind me.
Yeah.
This is the painting that Richard Lale did during the episode, and he was painting this, and I don't know if it's translating, but you can see it has 2 different eyes. Like this eye is looking straight forward, and this eye is like down. And now that I touched it, it's gonna fall on me, and I'm gonna lose my mind. So he kept talking about he saw like a dark-skinned man, but like something was wrong with his eye, and like all this weird stuff. Now, we had gone through and done a tour beforehand, and I don't know if I didn't look inside the cell a lot. Inside this one particular cell, it was the
pretty quick tour.
Yeah, and I was trying to I was trying to do 800 things all at the same time and on no sleep, so I wasn't paying super close attention. But I also, if I can, I like to go in completely blind. So I was kind of like half listening, so I would know my bearings, but like not listening to anything else. So it was the solitary confinement cell. No recollection that this thing was in here, but they sent me into the solitary confinement cell, and there is the most horrific dummy I've ever seen in my life. It was, he said, stuffed with newspapers from the 70s. So it's been sitting there since the 70s, and that's how they know. It had hands made of gloves that were handcuffed together in this like weird way like this, and boots on, and then it had like a basketball for a head, but then this horrific mask that looked like a hockey mask almost. And then it had like glass eyes, and one of the eyes was looking out, and the other eye was rolled down up underneath. And so I'm in the cell, and I'm I'm trying not to freak out. And I had my camera flipped around, and I'm looking on the screen. I'm looking, and they're showing the dummy because I can't look it in its one good eye because I'm gonna freak out because I'm in the cell with it. And I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at Richard Little's painting, and I'm looking back, and all of a sudden I'm like, Richard Little, is this what you're painting? And down to the hands, the weird hands. That's what he was painting. And it was enough that like our producer said to him afterwards, like, nice job, like trying to like pull that one off. No, he didn't know. None of us knew. I didn't know.
We didn't know it was in there.
We didn't know. and he's talking about this thing that he can't really connect to it or whatever, and it's not feeling, is it even human? No, it's not, because it was this dang dummy. Like, and at that point I was like, I can't do another minute of this. Like, I'm gonna need a vacation from my vacation because I'm in the cell with this. It's gonna touch me. It's gonna look. It's one eye is gonna like look up at me. Like, I can't.
Well, to even know that she was gonna go in that cell, and he had already started painting that. There's like 862 rooms in there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She didn't hit just a mere fraction of what's actually in that location. Like, it's insane the amount of stuff they have in there. But to know that was a very small, wasn't it even 10 by 10 cell? I don't even think it was.
No.
So it was
smaller
like
than
4
feet by 6 feet. It was
so
tiny.
to even know that she was going to go in there, there's like 4 or 5 levels to this whole place. So to even know, like I said, she was going to go in there. Nobody knew where she was going to end up, where they're going to ask her to go and stuff like that. So for him, and he was painting that for a while before she got in there. And then she was like, wait a minute. And then he was like, surprise.
let me tell you about the time too that I myself, not the spirit that consumed me, also almost axe murdered G.G. because I'm in the cell and the thing is saying my name and telling me it likes my butt. And then G.G.'s like, upstairs on the 3rd floor, there's 3 men waiting for you. And I was like, nope.
And Richard Lale's like, go downstairs. Yeah. Nobody's going upstairs. I was like, yeah, girl, don't go up there.
Like, I can't. It was rough. We kept all the lights on for most of the time, except I think the frisky person in the military room was like, because I walked in there and I was like, oh, I feel like I need to turn the lights off. And I did for like a second. And then I was like, who am I? And why am I choosing? Like, I don't turn the lights off until they make me. Like,
that's crazy. That's a lot. Like, just physically and spiritually, 3 locations in 3 days. Like, I don't know.
3 intense locations.
Yeah, right.
I was not expecting any of that. Neither of us were. No. It was, we were going to go in, we were going to do our normal thing. We get some cool evidence. Awesome. We get scared here and there. Yeah. But we don't like haul tail like we did. Like, I'm still upset or sad that we didn't finish out our whole time at Valisca, because like I said, that's years and years in the making that we've wanted to do this, and we had to make it perfect, and so we both could go and we both could enjoy it, and to just not even question at that time. Now in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, okay, but even at that time, it was like there was no yes to staying. It was no, we're going. And our Saint Lori was like, hey, get your shit and let's get. Like, she's like, she knew.
Right.
She had a really hard time with it.
Yeah, then that was the fastest breakdown of an investigation I think I've ever seen. And here's the other thing. Going back to Valisca, when we were leaving, like, we sat outside of the house staring at it for like 2 hours trying to figure out what to do. But we eventually, like, Lori was like, get out, let's go get your stuff. Because we had left stuff inside the house. So we had to go back in after all this was over. And we pulled the car up and angled our headlights into the kitchen windows. The kitchen, there's 2 kitchen windows. Our headlights were directly into them. The windows were sheer. The windows had sheer curtains on them. And when we went in there, you could not see anything. Those lights did nothing. It was like so that like dead black. And we were in and out. I want to say in like 30 seconds, maybe 45, if I'm being generous.
Wow. We were just
in and out. We grabbed whatever we could and we brought it outside and we dealt with it outside. But we just went in, we checked, we went out, and that was it. But it was like we were fighting ourselves at that point, being like I wanted to go to that place since I was 12. And I'm grateful that I did it with Scared and Alone, because I trust all of those people spiritually so much. I'm grateful that G.G. was there because I trust her implicitly. And, her trust in me was very clearly misplaced because I tried to axe murder her. But, I think that there was no other way to do it. But at that point, it was like we
Mhm.
couldn't do anything else. There was nothing else.
No, there was no sleeping. There was no going back in with no other help besides ourselves, because it just would have been ourselves looking out for ourselves. You know, there wouldn't have been evidence of anything. There would, because then our true crime brains start kicking into play.
Yeah.
You know, it just, and it, you know, definitely if somebody was to ask me to ever go back there, probably in the next like 3 years, I'd be like, no. It might be a time sometime, but I have really mixed emotions.
And I said the same thing. It's like I've felt that place calling to me for so long, and now I will never go back. But at the same time, I say that out loud, and I can still feel it. I've been carrying with me. I was very, like, people were very worried that I was going to bring something with me out of that house because it was in me. And I know for a fact I did not, because why would it ever come with me when it gets fed there constantly? So that just doesn't make sense. But I didn't carry the thing with me, but I carry the weight of what happened there. I carried the weight of what I almost did there. I carried the weight of, and like without even knowing, like it's that weird,
all of the emotion.
Yeah, I've carried that house with me from there in a different way than I've carried it with me. So it calls to me still, but I'm not available. I am not listening.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's
Well,
been
we're
rough
glad
trying
you're
to get
good.
back.
Yeah. So what are you doing to try to get back to yourself? Are you guys like sleeping, swimming? What are you
No
doing?
sleeping, just not talking about it. Really, this is the first time I've talked about people, you know, at work, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it yet. Like, I'm not ready. And like I said before, if I was to watch this, I'd be like, oh, this is such crap. But it is truly something like emotional. Like, I want to cry just talking about it, but like to even realize what you went through and what, because like we're investigators. We're supposed to be ready for this type of thing. This is what we do. I was not ready for any of that. Court was certainly not ready for any of that.
Right.
However, if it was going to happen with somebody, I am glad that it happened with her. And that's like a double-edged sword comment. But I know I can call her if it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm having a nightmare about it. You know, she's going to know because she is going through the same thing.
Yeah, I had a nightmare last night. I came home and it was going to be, I came home on Saturday and it was going to be my first night by myself since it had happened. And I am not like, I watch horror movies like it's nothing, like they're cartoons. I play horror games on Twitch all the time. Like it's nothing. Like, yeah, I get scared, but like I've never had trouble sleeping after an investigation. And I didn't after this just because of the sheer amount of time that I had been awake. But coming home on Saturday, it was my first night by myself, and I got home in the morning and I slept for a little bit because it was daytime, but like my body woke me up. It's starting to get dark. I was like, I gotta get out of my house. Like my house there's not enough lights. You know, I ended up kidnapping my friend Alicia and being like, let's go to the bookstore. Let's go to this. And she said to me, are you just trying to stay out of the house? And I said, yeah. And I went to Target and I got a new lamp because it wasn't light enough in my house. And then I made her sleep over with the light on because I couldn't be alone. And then last night, my son was home finally, and that was our first night together. And I had to sleep with the light on again. And I had nightmares last night. And I haven't been able to play any of my horror games on Twitch. I haven't even been able to think about playing them. There's a new movie coming out it came out that I desperately have been wanting to, I've been waiting months to see it. And I am struggling trying to think of going to see it because I don't think I can handle it. And I am not this person. This does not happen to me.
Yeah. 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 You're probably going to have to get something to like unattach some of that residual energy from you. You know,
I
whether Reiki or a shaman or something.
Genuinely though, like realistically, it was a trauma. Like where I feel like I'm someone who has struggled with PTSD in my life, and I feel like I'm struggling with PTSD. Like I'm struggling to not let this become PTSD again, because we went through an actual trauma. And it affected all of us. It affected everyone on the panel. It affected me and G.G. And how we all deal with it is going to be different. But we all went through it together, thankfully. And, you know, all the viewers did too. I mean, for anyone that was watching it, especially in the moment, like not knowing what was happening or how it was going to turn out. Like we all went through an actual real life trauma.
Yes.
And like G.G. said, she's the only person. And I was like talking at her about it a lot in the days following while we were together, and I kept like I said at least once, I was like, I'm sorry, but like this is me processing, and I'm just trying to like, you're the only person that knows, because you're the only person that was physically there with me. And I'm not trying to like re-traumatize you again, because I know you're not ready to deal with it. But like in order to like not let this become something, like I have to get it out. And I kept bringing it up, and I couldn't stop talking. Like that was the only thing I could.
I just wanted to make sure you were okay. And then I remember when we first walked out of the house, and we see Lori, and I don't ever want to see her like that again. She was like, I'm out here. I couldn't do nothing. She's sobbing. And she just
oh my gosh,
my best friends are in there and I couldn't do anything. And she's like, I was so worried. I'm going to need a minute. I was so worried and scared for you guys. And she's like, I just didn't know what to do. And all I could do was hold her at that point. So I had to make sure my girls were good. I'll process in my time, because that's what I do. My peeps have got to be okay. And that was it. Was hard to see, Courtney going through her thing, and then I'm walking, and then seeing Lori, I'm like, oh my God, like during it was hard to process until afterwards, and we're like, what the F just happened? Like, but then for the viewers to see that all happen in the panel, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Made for a hell of an episode, though. I'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Freaking for sure.
Probably the best episode we've done.
Yeah, for sure. It was intense. Definitely. If any of the listeners want to go and watch the video, where can they go, Courtney?
So it's on YouTube. You can go. We have a website, It's scared and the word and alone.com. It's not quite up there yet, but that will link you to our YouTube page, or you can go on YouTube and search at Scared Alone Live. And it's up there. You can also go on to find me on Facebook, or look up any of my socials. I'm at the Feems, FEEMS, short for femur. And you can find any of the links there, or message me if you can't find it. I'll send it to you. But it's definitely worth a watch. If you're going to watch any of our episodes that we've done, I think that's the one, because it's so hard to believe. It's so hard to like process it for me. Watch it and tell me what happened, because there's so many every time I watch through it, and I'm only able to watch it like bits at a time. I see new things that like I don't remember happening, or I didn't connect, but the dots are all there. And so watch it, send me a message, and tell me what you saw, and process it with me.
Right?
Yeah. Because I told Sean and Ethan we were going to watch it, and I still haven't been able to pull it up yet. And I do have it plastered all over PXL's page too. So, but I'm just not ready to watch it.
And it will be called on any of those pages. It's not called like Scared and Alone Valisca. It's called Scared and Alone Monday Night Live Stream, because that was the first night that we had streamed. So it was Monday Night Live Stream. So that's the one you want.
Joe, would you please shut up? You're so damn catty.
Your internet is too good for all of us.
Where did Joe go?
Nope.
I'm just sitting here listening.
We're entertaining my brother.
And it looks. Hey, yeah.
You're buffering, dude.
AOL. Is that
Why don't we wrap it? Yeah. I saved money by using AOL. I got the free disc.
Little disc, yeah. God.
I love that.
I still have AOL. What the hell?
All right, so yeah. So anyways, thank you for coming on, Courtney and G.G. and Jen from home. So this episode was a little crazy because I have no internet apparently, and I was on a delay. So I just sat back and listened, and I'm definitely going to go back and watch this episode again about the Villisca Axe Murder House on Scared and Alone. And I may have to ask someone to come over and watch it with me, because I'm scared of the dark. No.
She's like, nope, never again.
Andy will come over and help you.
No thanks.
Yes.
But no, everybody, we really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to share your journey with us, and all the listeners. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll definitely come back with some more exciting stories from Scared and Alone and Paranormal XL.
Thank you so much for having us on. It's always,
thank you.
you guys are my favorite.
We love
the-
you guys.
I'm available always if you want to recap every episode. On Mondays, I'm available.
But it's great. All right, Joe, final parting thoughts? Don't hang up.
Yes, if
Let's tell
if you are listening, thanks everybody for listening, and please go up on our website. I will put all the links to their to Paranormal XL podcast and to Scared and Alone on our website, and I also put it on the show notes for this episode. But please, wherever you're listening to the show, give us a positive rating. 5-star review really helps. Please leave it, and it helps with the algorithms. I know it's kind of weird, but if you can, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell on YouTube, leave a positive comment, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.